Hello, my name is Matt, and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to this web channel for YouTube on Alcoholics Anonymous and how to stay sober. I decided to make some videos that I can upload that might be helpful to people who are just getting into the program or not quite sure if they need to be in AA or if they even have the disease of alcoholism. We're going to talk about what AA is, what the disease of alcoholism is, and how to define it. And we're going to talk about ways that people can stay sober and live a relatively happy and sane life while working this program. I've met a lot of people who've come in and out of AA, and sometimes they're not really sure if the program's right for them because maybe they got sent to AA because of an invitation by the judge who said, you will go and you will enjoy it. And that's not really, the way that the program's supposed to work. I mean, it gets people through the door, but the best way for it to work is if somebody really wants it, wants to be here, and is here because they realize they have a problem. And that is probably the toughest part of the disease of alcoholism, because there's no test for it. You can't go to the doctor and get a blood test or give a urine test or get a CAT scan or MRI or any of that kind of stuff. So the only person that can really accurately diagnose it and accept it is ourselves. We have a problem when we say we have a problem, and when things start to get out of hand, and when we start to notice that the things in our life are starting to become unmanageable and hard to control. So the disease itself prevents us as human beings from functioning normally. It's a disease of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And the part that people probably, in my experience, have the most hard time with is the spiritual aspect of it, but we'll get to that later. But if you really stop and think about alcoholism as a disease process basically keeps an organism from functioning properly, and alcohol certainly does that because it basically changes our chemistry of our brain. It affects our ability to make good decisions, and it affects our judgment, and it affects a lot of things. If anybody, including myself, has ever drank and became intoxicated and decided that they could drive an automobile safely and effectively, knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because when alcohol is in our system and we're starting to feel good, we think we can do anything. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of us end up in the AA program, because something usually happens, and it's usually not a good thing. I mean, I personally didn't stop drinking because I wanted to. I stopped drinking because I had to. My disease finally took me to places where I just couldn't do it anymore. It stopped working for me. It was no longer fun. It became necessary, and my drinking was to the point where if I didn't drink, I'd become ill. And when I did drink, I would become ill. So it was kind of a no-win situation for me. And that's what led me to my sobriety. And again, we'll talk about that a little more later. But right now, I just really want to emphasize that alcohol is a respecter of no one. Alcoholism doesn't care what your race is, what your creed is, what your religious affiliation is. It doesn't matter. You can be a man, a woman, a teenager, an older adult. It just doesn't matter. It's an equal opportunity disease. So let's get that out on the table right now. And the other thing is, alcoholism is a tough disease because one of the chief things about this disease is something called denial. And most people will say, nope, I don't have a problem with it, I can take it or leave it. Well, that's going to be the acid test, because most people who we consider normal drinkers don't even have to think about asking that question. So the question really becomes is, can we really take it or leave it? And the answer is no. If one is truly alcoholic, there is no way to drink normally ever again. And the first step of recovery is coming to the realization that, and conceding to our innermost self that we are an alcoholic. That's the first step in recovery. It's the admission that we have a problem, that we have a disease, and that we have to do something about it. And that is a very unpleasant and distasteful thing, but the alternative is, if you don't do something different, and if we don't follow the principles of the program, then what we have to look forward to is more pain and more of the same. And whatever that is for you is entirely up to you. But in my next video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, and then in the subsequent videos, we're going to talk about the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're going to talk about some of the other tools, and we're going to talk about meetings, and we're going to talk about little things in increments so we can take it in small bite-sized chunks and start to digest it. But for now, I just want you to think about whether or not you think you have a problem with alcohol. If you do, then you're in the right place. If you don't, you're still welcome, because there's a lot of good information to be had here. And if you're not quite sure, then stick around and let's explore this together. I invite anyone to send me an email. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have, or if you are kind of in between sponsors or you're not quite sure what to do, send me an email. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, and I'm here to give you any kind of support I can, because that's what keeps us all sober. So for now, welcome, and I look forward to meeting you again in the next video. Thanks.